Hey guys, it's Brandon Miniman from Pocketnow.com. Pocketnow is not an iPhone site. We cover smartphones in general, usually Windows Phone and Android. But when a piece of technology comes along in the smartphone industry that really changes things and ups the ante in terms of hardware and software, we have to talk about it. So yesterday I stood in line for 11 hours to get an iPhone 4, not because I'm obsessed with the iPhone or because I'm obsessed with Apple. I'll tell you why it took 11 hours to get this thing at the end of the video, so stick around to that. And what I want to do in this video is provide some overall first impressions of the iPhone 4. I want to talk about the hardware, how it feels in the hand, how it compares to other devices that I've been using recently, to give you an idea of really what the iPhone 4 is all about. And then there will be another video coming up after this where I'm going to talk more about the software and sort of the hardware-software interplay and what Apple has done with this next generation iPhone. Let's get to it. Okay, so let's get started talking about the iPhone 4, and by the way, if you hear a little bit of a hum, they are mowing the grass outside of my apartment. So my first impression when picking up the iPhone 4 after I got it from the Apple employee after they activated it wasn't, oh wow, this is the thinnest smartphone I've ever felt, or it wasn't, wow, this design is truly stunning. It was, this device is kind of heavy actually, and it was also, my other impression was, and it doesn't feel as thin as everyone's making it out to be. I think Apple did some really interesting things with the design to give the perception of thinness. Number one, they have this metal edge, which actually sits between these two pieces of glass and protrudes about 1 millimeter away from the glass around the entire device. And what this does, and they did this sort of with the iPhone 3GS, is gives the perception of a phone that's thinner than it actually is. So when you pick it up, when you look at it, it looks really thin because you're judging it by this metal strip and not by the entire width. Another advantage to this thinness argument is that the iPhone 4 is completely flat on the back. It's very, very rare for a smartphone to be completely flat on its back, so that when you put it on a tabletop, it sits completely flat. Compared to other devices like the HD2, this isn't completely flat, so when you put it down, it's got kind of a curved design which pushes the device up a little bit and makes it seem thicker when you compare it to another device. Same with the Google Nexus One. It's got a slightly curved back, it doesn't sit completely flush. I can rock it back and forth, and obviously this applies to the iPhone 3GS, which also does likewise rocks back and forth. I think if these other smartphones, which are very thin smartphones like the Nexus One and the HD2, were to have flat backs, they would feel very similar to the iPhone 4. And the iPhone 4 doesn't feel that thin in my opinion. It's just the perception that Apple has achieved through certain design feats. So let's take a look at the hardware beyond the thinness of the iPhone 4. It's a very, very nice looking device. It has a very high quality feel. I think that's thanks in part to the weight. It is a heavy device. It feels like a small, heavy brick almost, although it's not as big as a brick, obviously. It's slender, and it has nice lines. So up here we have the front-facing video camera for FaceTime, 1.3 megapixels. There's a lot of sensors up here for proximity, for light. There's the screen. And then there is the button to get to the home screen. We've got these very, very crude-looking buttons here that really lend to the whole overall design of the iPhone 4. I kind of like it. The volume up and volume down button, I was afraid of having trouble finding them when using the phone, but that hasn't been the case. It's just as easy as the previous generation iPhone that had the rocker. Then we have this nice switch. This band continues all the way around. We have the standard 30-pin connector, a microphone, and a speaker down here. I'll talk about speakerphone quality in an upcoming video. Over here we have the micro SIM adapter. You want to see what it looks like? I'll pop it out. Now, a big concern that I had with the iPhone 4 and getting a micro SIM activated on my account is how can I test other phones? I continually test phones for Pocketnow. I pop out my SIM card and I pop it in another phone. Well, what you can do is actually just simply get a micro SIM to SIM adapter. That should work and allow you to use other phones if you like to swap phones. And this is a little bit tricky. Okay, so here it comes. And quite simply, it's a little SIM. I mean, it's basically a regular SIM card just shaved down. There's nothing really special about it, so pop it back in. Let's continue around the device, put the paper clip away. Up here, we have the power standby button and the 3.5mm headphone jack. There's also a second microphone for noise cancellation. I've yet to test this. I want to go to a bar that's really loud and call a friend and say, hey, can you hear me? And see what they say. On the back, we get this piece of glass, which will need cleaning a lot. Just like the front, which is a little bit annoying because you're already stuck cleaning the front of your device, and now you have to do the back as well. I find a simple cotton t-shirt helps tremendously with that. Here we have the 5-megapixel camera and the flash. Apple is really touting video and image quality on the iPhone 4, and I gotta tell you that the quality is the best that I've seen on any smartphone. The contender, I think, is the Samsung Omnia 2, which had an awesome camera, but the iPhone just destroys it. Thanks, I think, in part to the backside illumination sensor, which really helps the camera adapt to low light conditions. So let's look at this more specifically compared to other devices. We'll start with the legacy iPhone here, the iPhone 3GS. You know, sometimes when looking at these two devices together, for a second I can't tell them apart because they're so similar. You have to look at the outer edge and the camera here to say, oh, no, there's the camera, that's the iPhone 4. Or, oh, this has the chrome edge very predominantly around the perimeter of the phone, whereas the iPhone 4 does not. And that's really the way that I tell the one apart from the other. They're very, very different on the back. One's got a curved plastic back, and one has a flat piece of glass. Obviously, the iPhone 4 looks much more high quality than the iPhone 4. Let's compare it to the Google Nexus One. I have been using this as my daily driver. It's got a 3.7-inch display. The iPhone 4 has a 3.5-inch display, certainly. And I gotta tell you that in the hand, the Nexus One still feels thinner. But if you compare them like this, the iPhone 4 definitely is the winner in terms of thickness. And next to the HTC HD2, the huge screened monster here with the 4.3-inch display, the iPhone kind of looks a little bit small. Turning over to the side, if we didn't have this curved design, slightly curved on the HD2, it would be thinner than the iPhone 4, but again, they have to curve the back to fit other components in there. I think the trend going forward is that OEMs are going to square off the design of the back, kind of like they did with the iPhone. That's just the way things go in the smartphone industry. One company takes ideas from another. The first thing that I wanted to see after turning on the iPhone 4 was the retina display, and I'm going to do another video talking all about screen resolution. I love the topic. I think it's really interesting to see how we've progressed in screen resolution, and I think a lot of people don't really truly understand what it means. But for the sake of this video, I just want to show you a demonstration, a quick demonstration of the retina display. So let's turn on the iPhone here. I'm going to zoom in on the screen, and I'm going to slide to unlock. And let's go into really any application. I want to show you text, because I think text is really the most impressive. Because you can't see pixels unless you have Superman vision, text appears like it's painted on the screen. It doesn't look like it's digitally rendered with pixels, because you can't see pixels. So let me try to get close in on the screen. Hopefully my camera will cooperate. I'm going to get closer and closer. And I think that's as close as I can get. I hope you can tell from here, and this should be in high definition, but pixels don't really come into the picture here. They're just so tiny and insignificant that it's just very difficult to perceive them on the screen. Let's jump into a picture. Okay, so here's a picture I took with the iPhone 3GS. Beautiful, beautiful photo quality. This is a lobster ravioli dinner that my fantastic girlfriend made for me. Hopefully she's watching. And the color clarity and the actual fine detail is just outstanding on this screen. Again, we're going to talk a lot more about the Retina display in an upcoming video, but I just wanted to give you some overall thoughts about the hardware and my first impressions of the iPhone 4. Yeah, it's thin, but it doesn't feel as thin as I think the world is making it out to be. And it does, yeah, it feels very high quality in hand. I think that's thanks in part to the weight. So real quick, I'm going to jump to a segment talking about why I was in line for 11 hours at the Apple Store. And be sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos on smartphones. And I'm going to have a few more videos on the iPhone 4. That's it for now. And I'm back, so I just want to talk about why it took me 11 hours to get through the line and finally get an iPhone 4. Trust me, if I knew it was going to take 11 hours, I would have never have gone. I thought it was going to take about 3 hours. I did not reserve an iPhone 4. My mistake. I was traveling on the day that the pre-orders went up, and when I got to a computer, all the pre-orders were sold out, or there were technical difficulties, one of the two. I couldn't get an iPhone. So anyway, I get to the Apple store in King of Prussia at about 5:15 in the morning. I'm there with a friend that did reserve a unit. It started to get really hot in the morning. We were outside for about 5 hours, although my friend, who, as I mentioned, had pre-ordered a unit, was out already within about 2 hours because Apple employees were going up and down the line saying, hey, who here has a pre-order? You can go to the front of the line. What they were doing is taking the pre-orders in at a ratio of 30-to-1. So for every 30 people with a pre-order, they took one person that didn't have a pre-order. So you can see how these hours added up a lot. Eventually they gave out tickets and vouchers to people that didn't pre-order so that we were at least guaranteed a unit. So I got a ticket for a 16 GB iPhone 4, and so that made me feel a little bit better, but at that point there was still 5 hours of waiting in front of me because they were activating the units in the store. Everyone that went in the store had to sit down with an Apple employee for about 10 to 15 minutes. People were asking questions. It was a mess. So I was in line inside for another 5 hours after being outside in 95-degree heat for about 5 or 6 hours. Not the best experience in the world. I definitely wouldn't have done it if I would have known it was going to take that long. But hey, I got an iPhone 4. Next time I'm absolutely going to pre-order. So please leave a comment. Did you have a strange experience getting an iPhone? Were you in a long line? Leave a comment below. I'm curious to hear your experience. That's it for now.